3 days later, Jake Morrison stood in a secret underground bunker beneath the Colorado mountains. Korath was healing fast, much faster than any human would. The alien general sat at a table designed for humans, looking too big for everything around him. Admiral Patricia Wells paced back and forth in front of a wall of screens. Each screen showed a different view of space around Earth. 12 large alien ships hung in the darkness like silver daggers. "They're not attacking," Admiral Wells said. "They're just waiting. Why?" "They are looking for me," Korath said in his deep voice. "Commander Zexai leads that fleet. He is smart and patient. He knows I am hiding somewhere on your planet." Dr. Amy Zhang sat across from Korath, studying readings from her medical scanner. She had been checking the alien's biology for the past 2 days. Her face showed confusion and excitement. "Admiral," Amy said, "I need to show you something strange." She connected her scanner to the main screen. "When I scan Korath, I get clear readings. Perfect detail of his body and brain patterns. But watch what happens when I scan humans." Amy pointed her scanner at Jake. The screen filled with fuzzy static and random signals. "The readings are all mixed up," Amy continued. "Our brains produce some kind of interference. It's like noise that blocks their scanners." Captain Ryan Brooks, head of Strategic Command, leaned forward. "Are you saying their technology can't see us clearly?" "That's exactly what I'm saying," Amy replied. "Human thoughts are too chaotic, too unpredictable. Their scanners expect organized, logical brain patterns." Korath made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your species thinks in ways that hurt our machines. What we see as broken thinking you call creativity. Is that why you can't find Jake when he hides among other humans?" Amy asked. "Yes," Korath said. "In a crowd of humans, even I cannot pick out one specific person. Your minds create too much confusion." Jake felt a spark of hope. "So we're invisible to them?" "Not invisible," Korath warned, "but very hard to find. Zexai knows this. That is why his ships have not attacked. He needs me alive, and he cannot find me while I am hidden among your people." Admiral Wells stopped pacing. "What makes you so important to them?" Korath was quiet for a moment. "I know things that could destroy the hegemony empire. Secrets about how we control other species. And I know the location of the Origin Vault." "You mentioned that before," Ryan said. "What is it, really?" "The first intelligent species in this galaxy were called the Architects," Korath explained. "They created all other thinking life. Each species was designed for a specific purpose. The hegemony was made to be perfectly logical and controlled. Other species were given strength or telepathy or problem-solving skills." "What about humans?" Jake asked. Korath looked at him with those strange yellow eyes. "Humans were the last species the Architects created. But something went wrong. Or perhaps something went right." Amy leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "Every other species has limits built into their minds," Korath said. "We cannot think beyond our programming. But humans have no limits. You can feel every emotion, think every thought, choose any path. The Architects gave you complete freedom." "And that's bad?" Jake asked. "My people think so," Korath said. "Free thinking is seen as a mental illness in the hegemony. We are taught that order and logic are the only proper ways to live." Suddenly, alarms started ringing throughout the bunker. Lisa Carter's voice came over the speakers from the communication center. "Admiral Wells, we have movement. 3 ships are leaving the main fleet. They're heading for Earth's surface." Everyone ran to the main command center. On the big screen, they could see 3 sleek ships diving toward Earth. They were much smaller than the main fleet, but still larger than anything humans had built. "Where are they landing?" Admiral Wells asked. "New York, London, and Tokyo," Lisa replied. "The biggest population centers. They're going to search for me," Korath said. "They will scan everyone in those cities." "Can they hurt people with their scanners?" Jake asked. "No," Korath said. "But if they cannot find me, they might start taking humans for questioning." Admiral Wells turned to Captain Brooks. "What are our defensive options?" "Against their technology?" Ryan shook his head. "We have nuclear weapons, but they could probably shoot down our missiles before they get close." "What about ground forces?" Jake asked. "We have good soldiers," Ryan said, "but their weapons and armor are far beyond ours." Korath stood up, his huge form towering over the humans. "You are thinking like hegemony commanders. You are trying to match their strengths. What else can we do?" Admiral Wells asked. "Fight like humans," Korath said. "Use the chaos in your minds. Do things that make no logical sense. Surprise them." Amy was still staring at her scanner readings. Jake, I think I understand something. The static our brains create, it doesn't just hide us from their scanners. It might actually interfere with their equipment. What do you mean? Jake asked. If human thoughts can jam their scanners, maybe they can jam other things too. Maybe we're like walking electromagnetic pulse weapons. Korath's eyes went wide. That is not possible. No species has ever damaged our technology just by thinking. No species like humans, Amy said with a smile. We might be the first. Jake felt something he hadn't felt since this all started. Real hope, Admiral, Jake said. I request permission to go to New York. I want to see what happens when human soldiers fight these aliens up close. That's too dangerous, Admiral Wells said. With respect, Admiral, we need to know if Amy is right, and if Korath is correct about fighting like humans instead of trying to match their technology. Korath looked at Jake with something that might have been respect. In my empire, soldiers follow orders without question. But you choose to face danger to protect others. This is why my people fear you. Admiral Wells was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she nodded. Take a small team. But Jake, if Amy is wrong about this, you'll be facing weapons that can cut through tank armor. Then we better make sure Amy is right, Jake said. As Jake prepared to leave for New York, Korath placed one of his large hands on Jake's shoulder. Commander Morrison, the alien general said, you are about to show my people something they have never seen before. Humans fighting not with the best weapons or the best armor, but with the best hearts. Jake nodded and headed for the transport. He had no idea if they could really fight beings with such advanced technology, but he was about to find out what humans could do when their freedom was threatened. And somewhere above Earth, Commander Zexhai was about to learn why the architects had made humans different from every other species in the galaxy. Jake Morrison crouched behind a burned-out car in the middle of Times Square. 2 days had passed since the alien ships landed, and New York looked like a war zone. The hegemony soldiers were 8 feet tall, covered in black armor that seemed to absorb light. Their weapons fired beams of energy that could cut through concrete like butter. But something strange was happening. The aliens kept missing their shots. Danny, move to that building, Jake whispered into his radio. Danny Rodriguez ran across the street in a zigzag pattern. The alien soldier tracking him fired 3 times, but each shot went wide. Their aim is terrible, Danny said, breathing hard as he reached cover. It's like they can't predict where I'm going. Jake smiled grimly. Dr. Amy Zhang had been right. Human unpredictability was more powerful than anyone had imagined. The battle had started when the hegemony forces began systematically scanning civilians in Times Square. They were looking for Korath, but their scanners kept giving false readings whenever humans were nearby. The alien commander had grown frustrated and ordered his soldiers to start taking humans for individual questioning. That's when Jake's team had struck Marine. Colonel Steve Parker was leading the main assault from the north. His voice crackled over the radio. Jake, these things fight like robots. Perfect formation, perfect timing, but they can't adapt when we do something unexpected. What do you mean? Jake asked. I sent 3 men to charge their position head-on while the rest of my unit circled around back. Any human commander would have split his forces to cover both threats. But these aliens kept all their soldiers facing the direct attack. They couldn't understand why anyone would do something so tactically unsound. Jake watched as another alien soldier tried to target Lisa Carter, who was providing sniper support from a rooftop. The alien calculated the perfect firing solution based on her previous shots. But Lisa deliberately missed her next shot on purpose, then moved to a completely different position. The alien stood still for several seconds, apparently confused by this illogical behavior. Lisa, take the shot, Jake ordered. Lisa's bullet struck the alien in the gap between his helmet and chest armor. The creature fell, blue blood spreading across the concrete. That's 12 down, Steve reported. But Jake, we've got bigger problems. Long-range sensors show more ships leaving the main fleet. Lots more. Jake's radio buzzed with a new voice. Admiral Wells was calling from the bunker in Colorado. Jake, get your team out of there now. We're tracking 40 ships heading for major cities worldwide. This isn't a search anymore. It's an invasion. What changed? Jake asked, running toward their extraction point. Korath thinks Commander Zexhai has given up on finding him quietly, Admiral Wells replied. He's going to take human prisoners and torture them until someone tells him where Korath is hiding. Back in the Colorado bunker, Korath stared at the screens showing alien ships spreading across Earth. His scaled face showed emotions that were becoming more human-like each day he spent with Jake's people. "I have brought destruction to your world," Korath said to Admiral Wells. "This is my fault. You came here to warn us." Admiral Wells replied, "Without you, we would have no idea what we're facing." President Helen Martinez had arrived at the bunker that morning. She stood next to Dr. Amy Zhang, watching the global situation deteriorate. "General Korath," President Martinez said, "you mentioned something called the Origin Vault. You said it holds the secrets of how human life began. Is there something there that could help us fight your people?" Korath was quiet for a long moment. "Yes," he finally said, "but the price of that knowledge might be higher than you are willing to pay." "Tell us," Amy said. Korath activated a holographic display showing a star map. A single point of light pulsed in a distant galaxy. "The Origin Vault is in the Andromeda Galaxy," Korath began. "It was built by the architects before they disappeared. Inside that facility, they stored not just their technology, but something far more dangerous." "What?" President Martinez asked. "Themselves," Korath said. "The architects did not die. They were imprisoned by the species they created. We feared what they might do if they ever escaped their prison." Amy leaned forward. "Imprisoned by whom?" "By all of us," Korath said. "Every intelligent species in the galaxy joined together to lock away the architects. Even my hegemony empire was part of that alliance." "Why?" Admiral Wells asked. "Because the architects wanted to change their creation. They saw how species like mine had become rigid and controlled. They wanted to remake all intelligent life to be more like humans, free to think any thought, feel any emotion, make any choice." The room went quiet. Amy was the first to speak. "They wanted to give other species what humans already have." "Yes," Korath said, "and that terrified everyone. Freedom is dangerous. It leads to wars, chaos, unpredictable behavior. Most species prefer the safety of limited thinking, but not humans," President Martinez said. "No," Korath agreed. "Humans were the architects' final experiment. You were meant to be their legacy, the example of what free life could become. But before they could complete their work, they were captured and locked away." Suddenly, alarms began ringing throughout the bunker. Lisa Carter's voice came over the speakers from her monitoring station. "Admiral, we have massive energy readings from the hegemony fleet. They're charging some kind of superweapon." Everyone ran to the main command center. The screens showed the alien ships in Earth's orbit glowing with bright energy. "What are they doing?" Admiral Wells asked. Korath's face went pale. "They are preparing to use a compliance beam. It will not kill humans, but it will change your brain patterns. You will become calm, logical, obedient, like proper civilized beings." "You mean they're going to lobotomize the entire planet?" Amy asked in horror. "Yes," Korath said. "Commander Zexhai has decided that humans are too dangerous to remain free. He will turn you into a species that thinks like the hegemony." President Martinez stared at the screens. "How long do we have?" 6 hours to charge the weapon," Korath said. "Then every human on Earth will lose the ability to think freely." Jake's voice came over the radio from New York. "Admiral, what's our status?" "The aliens here just stopped fighting and returned to their ships." "Jake, get back here immediately," Admiral Wells ordered. "We have a situation." As Jake's team raced back to Colorado, Admiral Wells turned to Korath. "Is there any way to stop this weapon?" "Only one," Korath said. "The technology in the Origin Vault could create a shield around Earth, but reaching the vault would require a journey of many months, even with the fastest hegemony ships." "Then we're finished," President Martinez said. "Not necessarily," Amy said suddenly. Everyone looked at her. "Korath, you said the architects are still alive in the vault. What if we could contact them directly? What if we could ask for their help?" "That is impossible," Korath said. "The vault's communication systems were destroyed when the architects were imprisoned." "But what if we could restore them?" Amy asked. "What if humans could do something that no other species has tried in millions of years?" Korath stared at her. "You would try to free beings that even my empire fears?" "If it means saving Earth's freedom," Amy said. "Yes." President Martinez nodded slowly. "Dr. Zhang, what do you need?" "A ship," Amy said. "A fast one. And a team crazy enough to try something that makes no logical sense." Korath looked around the room at the humans planning to risk everything for their freedom. For the first time since arriving on Earth, he smiled. "I know where my former people keep their fastest ship," Korath said, "and I know how to steal it." Admiral Wells activated the global communication system. Jake Morrison, this is Admiral Wells, change of mission. We're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're about to attempt something that could change the entire galaxy. As the countdown to humanity's forced lobotomy continued, Jake's team prepared for a journey that would take them farther from home than any human had ever traveled. And somewhere in the Andromeda galaxy, beings who had been waiting for millions of years sensed that their final creation was about to find them. The stolen hegemony ship looked like a black knife cutting through space. Jake Morrison stood in the strange alien control room, watching stars fly past at impossible speeds. They had been traveling for what felt like hours, but Korath assured them they were already halfway to the Andromeda galaxy. Human time sense is different from reality at these speeds, Korath explained. Your minds cannot understand how fast we are moving. Dr. Amy Zhang worked at a control panel, trying to modify the ship's communication system. Her hands moved quickly over the alien symbols, which now glowed with colors that seemed more friendly than threatening. I think I understand how their technology works, Amy said. It responds to thought patterns. The more organized and logical you're thinking, the better it works for you. That explains why I keep breaking things, said Nina Torres, the pilot Admiral Wells had chosen for the mission. Nina was known for her creative flying style, the kind that won impossible battles but made flight instructors nervous. Marcus Webb, their engineer, laughed. I've been trying to fix the navigation system for an hour, but every time I approach it logically, it does something different. Try thinking about something else, Amy suggested. Something random. Marcus thought about his daughter's birthday party while working on the navigation controls. Suddenly, the system began responding perfectly. That's amazing, Marcus said. It's like the ship wants us to be confused. Korath watched the humans work with growing amazement. In my empire, only the most disciplined minds are allowed to operate our ships. But you make them work better by being chaotic. Maybe that's the point, Jake said. Maybe the architects designed this technology for minds like ours. They had been traveling for 6 hours when Amy's communication modifications finally worked. The ship's sensors reached out across space, searching for the origin vault. What they found was both magnificent and terrifying. The vault was enormous, larger than Earth's moon. It hung in space around a dying star, its surface covered with structures that seemed to twist and change as they watched. But there was something wrong with it. Parts of the station were dark, and debris floated around it like the remains of ancient battles. It's been damaged, Korath said, his voice quiet. The prison system is failing. Is that good or bad? Nina asked. I do not know, Korath admitted. No one has spoken to the architects in millions of years. As they approached the station, Jake felt a strange sensation in his mind. It was like hearing whispers in a language he almost understood. Does anyone else feel that? Jake asked. Yes, Amy said. It's like something is trying to talk to us. Suddenly, the ship's communication system activated on its own. A voice filled the control room, but it wasn't speaking in words. Instead, it spoke directly into their minds. Humans, the voice said, and the word carried feelings of surprise, hope, and deep sadness. You have come at last. Who are you? Jake asked aloud. We are the architects. We are the ones who dreamed you into existence, and we have been waiting so very long to see what you would become. The ship's screens filled with images. Jake saw the galaxy as it had been millions of years ago, when the architects ruled everything. They had been beings of pure energy, creating life wherever they went. But they had made each species with limitations, boundaries on what they could think and feel. We thought we were being kind, the architect voice continued. We gave each species exactly what they needed to survive and be happy. But happiness without choice is just another kind of prison. Amy leaned forward. So you created humans differently. Yes, you were to be our final gift to the galaxy. Unlimited potential, unlimited choice, unlimited growth. But the other species feared you before you were even born. Why? Marcus asked. Because freedom is frightening to those who have never known it. The hegemony and others saw what humans might become, and they chose to lock us away rather than risk change. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. They imprisoned you just for creating us? They imprisoned us because we wanted to give them the same gift we gave you. We wanted to remove the limitations from all intelligent life, to make every species free to choose their own path. The ship suddenly shook. Warning lights flashed across the control panels. What's happening? Nina asked, fighting to control their flight. Korath checked the sensors. HFY followed us. He has 6 ships, including a command cruiser. Jake ran to the weapon controls. Can we fight them? Not with their numbers, Korath said. And Jake, HFY has something worse than weapons. He has a portable compliance beam. If he gets close enough, he can force us to think like hegemony soldiers. Then we need to get to the station fast, Amy said. But as they approached the vault, something unexpected happened. The ancient prison began to open. Massive doors that had been sealed for millions of years started to move. The architects are breaking free, Korath said, fear clear in his voice. Is that bad? Jake asked. Before Korath could answer, beings of pure light began emerging from the station. They were beautiful and terrible, like looking at the birth of stars, and they were heading straight for HFY's fleet. We have been patient long enough, the architect voice said in their minds. The time for imprisonment is over. Jake watched as the energy beings reached the hegemony ships. Instead of attacking, they simply touched the vessels. Immediately, the ships stopped moving. What are they doing? Nina asked. Exactly what we planned to do to your species, the architect replied. We are freeing the minds of those who held us prisoner. Through the ship's communication system, Jake could hear voices from the hegemony ships. But something was wrong. The soldiers were screaming, crying, laughing. They sounded like they were going insane. Stop, Korath said suddenly. You are hurting them. We are giving them freedom, the architect said. The freedom to feel everything they have been denied. But they're not ready for it, Amy said. Their minds can't handle that much change all at once. Jake realized what was happening. The architects were doing to the hegemony soldiers what Commander HFY had planned to do to humans. They were changing their minds by force. This is wrong, Jake said. You can't force freedom on people. That's not what freedom means. The architect voice became confused. But this is what we wanted for all our children. Complete emotional and mental liberty. Not like this, Amy said. Look at what you're doing to them. On the screens, they could see hegemony soldiers abandoning their posts, some sobbing uncontrollably, others attacking their own equipment in fits of rage. Their minds were breaking under the sudden weight of unlimited emotions. Freedom has to be chosen, Jake said. It has to be earned and understood. You can't just give it to someone who isn't ready. For a long moment, the architects were silent. Then their voice returned, sadder than before. We see. We have made the same mistake again. We thought we knew what was best for our children. The energy beings stopped their work and returned to the station. The hegemony ships drifted helplessly, their crews still struggling with their newly freed minds. There is another way, Amy said suddenly. Instead of changing people all at once, what if we could change them slowly? What if we could plant seeds of freedom that would grow over time? Explain, the architect said. A signal, Amy said. Something that would reach across the galaxy and activate dormant parts of alien minds. Not all at once, but gradually. Give them time to adjust to new thoughts and feelings. Jake nodded. Let them discover freedom for themselves. The architect voice brightened. Yes, this could work. But such a signal would require sacrifice. Someone would need to stay here to maintain it, and it would take generations to show results. Korath stepped forward. I will stay. I have seen what freedom looks like. I can help others learn to understand it. And we'll help from Earth, Jake said. We'll show other species that freedom and chaos don't have to mean destruction. The architect was quiet for a moment. You would reject the power we offer? We could make humans into gods, able to reshape reality with thought alone. No, Amy said. We don't want to be gods. We just want to be free, and we want to help others find their own freedom. Then you truly are our greatest creation, the architect said. You understand what we took so long to learn. The greatest gift is not power, but the wisdom to use it well. As Jake's team prepared to return to Earth, they watched Korath work with the architects to build their freedom signal. Soon, across the galaxy, the seeds of change would begin to grow. But first, they had to save their own world from Commander HFY's compliance beam. And Jake was beginning to understand that the solution might not require fighting at all. Jake Morrison's team raced back toward Earth in their stolen ship, but they were too late. Through the communication system, they could hear Admiral Wells' desperate voice. The compliance beam is charging. We have less than 1 hour before they fire. Dr. Amy Zhang worked frantically at the ship's controls. The architect's signal isn't ready yet. It needs more time to reach across the galaxy. Then we do this the human way, Jake said. He activated the communication link to Earth. Admiral Wells, this is Jake. I need you to broadcast a message on all frequencies. Every radio, every television, every communication device on Earth. What message? Admiral Wells asked. Tell everyone to think about freedom. Tell them to remember what it feels like to choose their own path. Tell them to think as loudly and chaotically as they can. Nina Torres looked at Jake like he was crazy. You want the entire planet to think at the same time? Amy proved that human thoughts interfere with hegemony technology, Jake explained. If 7 billion people all think freely at the same moment, maybe we can overload their compliance beam. Marcus Webb shook his head. That's the most illogical plan I've ever heard. Exactly, Jake said with a grin. That's why it might work. Back on Earth, Admiral Wells hesitated for only a moment before giving the order. Within minutes, every emergency broadcast system on the planet was active. President Martinez's voice reached every human being on Earth. Citizens of Earth, the president said, in a few minutes, aliens will try to take away our freedom to think for ourselves. They want to make us calm and obedient. But we are human beings, and no one can control our minds without our permission. In cities across the world, people stopped what they were doing and listened. I want everyone to think about what freedom means to you. President Martinez continued. Think about your dreams, your hopes, your fears. Think about the people you love and the choices you've made. Think as hard as you can about being human. In New York, Marine Colonel Steve Parker and his soldiers stood on rooftops, looking up at the alien ships in the sky. They thought about their families, their country, their duty to protect freedom. In Tokyo, an old man remembered teaching his grandson to fly a kite. In London, a young mother thought about her daughter's first steps. In Moscow, a scientist thought about the joy of discovering something new. All across Earth, 7 billion human minds began to think freely, chaotically, beautifully. In space above Earth, Commander Zexhai prepared to fire the compliance beam. His ship's instruments showed the weapon at full charge, ready to pacify the troublesome human species once and for all. Fire, Zexhai commanded. But instead of the calm, organized beam that should have emerged, the weapon began to spark and smoke. The compliance beam had been designed to work on logical, predictable minds. It couldn't handle the chaos of 7 billion humans all thinking different thoughts at the same time. Commander, one of his officers reported, the beam is overloading. The human thought patterns are too complex. Our systems cannot process them. Then we will use conventional weapons, Zexhai ordered. Destroy their major cities. But when his soldiers tried to target Earth's population centers, their computers couldn't get a lock. The massive human thought was interfering with every targeting system they had. Sir, another officer said, his voice confused. I'm reading strange energy patterns from our own crew quarters. Zexhai rushed to check on his soldiers. What he found shocked him. Throughout his ship, hegemony soldiers were sitting quietly, their eyes closed, but their faces showed expressions he had never seen before. Some were smiling, others looked sad. A few were even crying. What is happening to them? Zexhai demanded. Dr. Amy Zhang's voice came over the ship's communication system. The architect's signal is working faster than we expected. The freedom signal isn't just reaching other galaxies. It's affecting your people right here. Zexhai looked around his ship in growing horror. His perfectly disciplined soldiers were starting to feel emotions they had never experienced before. They were beginning to question orders, to think for themselves. This is madness, Zexhai said. Order and logic are the foundation of civilization. No, came a new voice. It was Korath speaking from the Origin Vault. Order and logic are tools, but they should serve life, not control it. Jake's ship appeared on Zexhai's screens. Instead of running or attacking, the human vessel simply stayed nearby, waiting. Commander Zexhai, Jake said over the communication link, we're not your enemies. We're offering you a choice. What choice? Zexhai asked. You can keep trying to force order on the galaxy, Jake explained, but that just creates more chaos in the end. Or you can learn to work with freedom instead of fighting it. On Zexhai's ship, more soldiers were abandoning their posts. But instead of going insane like the ones at the Origin Vault, these soldiers were changing slowly. The architect's signal was working gently, giving them time to adjust to new thoughts and feelings. One young hegemony officer approached Zexhai. Commander, he said, and his voice was different now, warmer somehow. I've been thinking about why we fight these humans. To maintain order, Zexhai replied automatically. But sir, the officer continued, What if order isn't the most important thing? What if happiness matters more? HFY stared at his subordinate. No hegemony soldier had ever questioned their mission before. I'm feeling something strange, the officer said. I think it might be what humans call hope. Across the hegemony fleet, similar conversations were taking place. Soldiers were experiencing curiosity for the first time. They were asking questions instead of just following orders. Jake watched from his ship as the alien fleet began to change. Amy, are you recording this? Every second, Amy replied. Jake, this is incredible. They're not becoming human, but they're becoming more like themselves, more individual. The transformation wasn't instant or easy. Some hegemony soldiers struggled with their new emotions. Others embraced them eagerly. But slowly, carefully, they were learning what it meant to think freely. Commander HFY found himself facing a choice he had never imagined. His empire's perfect order was crumbling, but in its place, something new was growing. His soldiers were still loyal, but now they chose to be loyal rather than being programmed for it. What do you want from us? HFY asked Jake. Nothing, Jake replied. We just want to share what we've learned. Freedom isn't about chaos or destruction. It's about choice, and if we choose to remain enemies, Jake was quiet for a moment. Then we'll defend ourselves. But we'd rather be friends. HFY looked around his bridge. His officers were working more efficiently than ever before. But now they were doing it because they wanted to, not because they had to. I have never faced a choice like this, HFY admitted. That's what makes it real, Amy said. That's what makes it freedom. 3 months later, Jake Morrison stood in what used to be called the United Nations building in New York. But now it was the headquarters of something much larger. Representatives from dozens of species filled the Great Hall, all of them learning to work together despite their differences. The hegemony empire had not fallen, but it had changed. Commander HFY now served as an ambassador, helping other species understand the transition from rigid order to chosen cooperation. The hardest part, HFY explained to a group of newly freed alien soldiers, is learning that making mistakes is allowed. In the old empire, errors were punished. Now we understand that mistakes are how we learn. Korath had returned from the Origin Vault to help establish the new alliance. He worked closely with Admiral Wells, who now served as Earth's representative to the Galactic Freedom Coalition. How many species have been affected by the signal? Admiral Wells asked during one of their planning meetings. Over 300 so far, Korath replied. Some are adapting quickly like the hegemony. Others need more time. But the change is spreading, Dr. Amy. Zhang had become the leading expert on what she called consciousness liberation. Her research showed that every species in the galaxy had the potential for free thought, but most had forgotten how to use it. The architects didn't create limitations in other species, Amy explained to a gathering of scientists from 12 different worlds. They just didn't activate certain parts of their minds. The freedom signal is like turning on lights in rooms that have been dark for millions of years. Jake had been promoted to Director of Human-Alien Relations, a job that mostly involved teaching other species how to disagree without fighting. It was harder than it sounded. The key, Jake told a group of confused aliens, is understanding that different opinions make us stronger, not weaker. When everyone thinks the same way, nobody thinks very much. The galaxy was far from perfect. There were still conflicts, still disagreements, still species that preferred order to freedom. But now there were choices. Nina Torres had become the first human captain of a truly interspecies crew. Her ship carried diplomats, scientists, and teachers to worlds that were just beginning to experience freedom. The funny thing, Nina told her mixed crew of humans and aliens, is that the galaxy isn't more chaotic now. It's just more interesting. Marcus Webb was leading the effort to merge human and alien technology. The results were amazing. Alien efficiency combined with human creativity was producing innovations that neither species could have achieved alone. When you stop,